Here's everything I learned from my first 100 kilometer or 62-mile ultra distance race so that you can prepare better than I did for yours. I have done ultra distance training blocks and distance mileage before, but it's all been self-planned. It's never been an official ultra sign-up race where there's a competitive field. So this is the first time that I've actually done that, where I am trying to outpace and outbeat other people. I will say that I signed up and I didn't know if I was going to get accepted because the field was already full. The race organizer messaged me and told me that within the next week or so, I would most likely get in because people would drop out. That ended up actually coming true. So upon registering, it was roughly 4 to 5 weeks out from the actual race. To that date, I had only been running every single day at a minimum of a 5K. I'm currently on that 5K a day run streak. We are now in the 840-ish to 850-ish days. I don't know the exact number. And so I had an aerobic base that's already been built. I would not recommend 4 to 5 weeks of training ahead of a 100-kilometer race if you had no aerobic base already pre-built. So that's number one, build an aerobic base. Number two, in the 4 week to 5 week, let's just call it 5 week training plan, is I was roughly doing 40 to 50 miles a week already, just on a week to week basis. At week 5, I did 50-ish miles. 4 weeks out, I did 55, 56 miles that week. By 3 weeks out, I did 70 miles. 2 weeks out, I did 69 miles. And then I slowly started to taper. Traditionally, what I would recommend is you do 2 build up weeks. So let's just say 50 and then 55, and then you do a deload week, dropping down into the high 40s as an example. And then you rebuild up going into the 60s, maybe low 60s, 65, and then deloading back into the 50s. I know there's a lot of content out there where people want you to run 80, 90, 100-mile weeks. Will that help? Yes, I would argue that it would. Is it necessary? I would argue no. Because I have a full-time job, I run my own design firm, my own design practice, I only have a limited number of hours to give to training every single day. And so what I would recommend is that you need to budget at least 2 hours a day for your fitness. And so there's obviously prep minutes that go in before you run for an hour and a half. And then there's obviously when you get back, you have to shower, you have to unpack your fluids, your electrolytes, everything else. And so let's just call it 2 to 2.5 hours every single day of training. The second thing that I would highly recommend people do is that you have to practice eating while running. One of the greatest foods that I've discovered is Uncrustables. If you watch any ultra distance documentaries on YouTube or any of that sort, you'll see people eating PB&Js. Uncrustables are usually accessible at your Costco or your BJ's or your wholesaler, so you could get a pretty good price on them. Eating them while running is good practice because it is solid food. You're not over intaking electrolytes or gels, but you're really just, even on an 8-mile run, you can eat the PB&J sandwich at mile 4 and it would get you across that 8-mile training day. Obviously, if the race is sponsored by a specific gel and you don't want to purchase your own gels ahead of time, I would recommend that you at least buy a dozen of the sponsored gels to test it on your stomach before race day. So if you are at an aid station and you're grabbing those gels that are sponsoring your race, you then are already pre-equipped with your stomach and your digestion. Number 3 is your footwear. This was a mistake that I made. If you look through my other videos, you'll notice I post a lot about Puma running. I genuinely love the Mag Max by Puma Running for ultra distance training. The Mag Max fits my foot extremely well. It's super plush, it's very cushioned, and I love it. And I wore the Mag Max to the entire race last weekend. That being said, I just got a new pair in that week and I only broke the sneaker in with 5 or 6 miles. That is something I would never do again. I genuinely believe I didn't break it in enough and my toes suffered. A week later, my toes are still suffering. I've never had an issue. I always wear the same socks when I train and on race, ultra distance races or distance, just running distances. So I kept the sock consistency and I obviously had the shoe consistency, but I was basically wearing a brand new pair of sneakers. I wouldn't do that again. Number 4 is obviously you're going to need maybe some sort of music or AirPods. At the start line, everybody had headphones. Um, Personally, running is a unique journey for me where I can allow my brain to think freely. And so throughout the race, I did not, 90 to 95% of the race, I did not listen to music and I did not have headphones. I literally just enjoyed the course. I enjoyed passing people, talking to people, that banter, letting my mind roam. If you need music, I would really recommend saving it for 50 plus miles because that's when you're going to need it the most or when you'll be in the most amount of pain or uncomfort. And so I played music just from my speaker from miles roughly, I think it was like 54 to 58 or 59. And then the last few miles, I just like listened. So again, if you do need headphones, plan ahead, get an audiobook, download your music, and things like that. But I would recommend you try a lot on your training runs just to do it without headphones. You're going to discover a lot more about yourself and you're going to realize that you are mentally capable to endure without substituting that pain through another coping mechanism like music. And so what does the aftermath look like? Well, I don't think people talk about this enough, is the fact that your body has no idea what to do with itself when you're done. You get this obviously massive high from accomplishment, but then you come back home, you're struggling to walk upstairs. It hurts in the shower because you have chafing or your toes are bleeding or you have to pop blisters or whatever the case may be. And your body is like sweating at night. You can't temperature regulate. Your quads are absolutely screaming. Your calves are burning. Your toes are so uncomfortable. You can't get in a rhythmic sleep. I don't think enough people talk about the aftermath. You need at least like 1 to 2 days of genuine recovery, if at all possible. I went back into work because I work for myself, and that's great and you can power through, but if you could have a light load work day the following day, would highly recommend. All of that being said, it was one of my favorite experiences. I love ultra distances. I love being able to push your self further than you even thought that you could at a faster pace, even potentially meeting really cool people. And so if you are watching this and you have not signed up for a race, sign up, get it in the books. You'd be really surprised as to how far that you could push yourself and experience something as beautiful as an ultra distance race.